The silence, what you learn to carry. Opener. This is not about finding your voice or learning to speak up. This is about something quieter. The slow disappearance of the things you used to say. The thoughts you started keeping to yourself. The feelings you learned to carry without showing. And the question underneath all of it, not, why am I so quiet? But when did I stop? Part 1. The quiet that crept in. It did not happen all at once. There was no single moment where you decided to stop. It was slower than that. A comment that landed wrong and taught you to edit before you spoke. A moment where you said what you felt and nothing happened. Or something happened that made you wish you had not. A pattern that repeated until your mind started doing the math before your mouth did. Somewhere in that calculation, silence became the answer that made the most sense. You did not choose it the way you choose things. It settled in, and after a while it stopped feeling like a choice at all. There was a version of you that had more to say. The opinions that came quickly before you learned to slow them down. The questions you used to ask out loud before you started asking them only to yourself. That version did not disappear. It got quieter. It learned which rooms were safe, which conversations were worth the cost, which people would actually hear it. That is not a character flaw. That is what a person learns when they pay enough attention to what happens when they speak. From the outside, it can look like calm. The person who never makes a fuss, who does not argue, does not push back. There is something that reads as easy about someone who has learned to be quiet. Something other people find comfortable. But what looks like peace from the outside is not always peace on the inside. Sometimes it is just the shape someone takes when they have learned that saying what they think costs more than staying still. The silence that looks like calm is not always calm. Sometimes it is just the part of the story that stayed inside. Part 2. What the silence replaced. There are conversations that never happened that still exist somewhere. The things you rehearsed and then did not say. The feelings you named to yourself at 2 a.m. and filed away by morning. The version of a conversation where you said what you actually thought. And then the version you had instead, which was shorter and safer and said much less. Those unlived conversations accumulated, and the weight of them is part of what you carry now, quietly, in the gap between what you think and what you say. At some point, honesty started to have a price. Maybe it was the reaction when you said what you really meant and it turned out to be too much. Maybe it was that you tried more than once and nothing changed. And after a while, trying feels less like honesty and more like shouting into a reasonable thing. You stopped paying the price. You found a way to say less and carry more on the inside instead. Here is something that is rarely said about silence. It is often a form of loyalty. Staying quiet in a relationship or a system is sometimes the most careful thing a person can do. It protects the peace. It protects the structure that everyone depends on, even if that structure is not entirely honest. Silence is not always withdrawal. Sometimes it is the most generous thing available in a situation that does not have room for the whole truth. That does not mean it was free. It means it was chosen for a reason, and that reason says something about the situation, not about you. It was the price you paid to keep the world around you from breaking, even if it meant breaking your own connection to it. Part 3. Why it was safer. You did not learn to be quiet in a vacuum. Something around you taught you that quiet was better. A home where certain things were not discussed. A relationship where the cost of saying the wrong thing was too unpredictable. A workplace where honesty had a social price you could not afford. Whatever it was, the environment gave you information, and you did what any intelligent person does. You used it. You learned the shape of the room and fit yourself to it. That is not a failure of courage. That is what it looks like to pay attention to where you are. The silence was not irrational. There are environments where speaking up carries real costs, where saying what you think makes you a target, where expressing a feeling is used against you later. In those environments, silence is not passivity. It is strategy. The decision that the cost of speaking is higher than the cost of carrying it, and that calculation is often correct. You were not wrong to protect yourself. The thing worth asking is why protection was necessary. Over time, you took a shape, the shape of someone who does not need much, who is fine, or at least says so, who can be in a room without the room having to adjust for them. That shape was not random. It was built from what was safe, what was welcome, what would be held against you, and what would not. And the longer you held it, the more it stopped feeling like a shape and started feeling like just who you are. But you were not always this quiet. Something made the room smaller, and then you got smaller to fit. Part 4. What it cost. There is a particular kind of loneliness that comes from being with people and still not being known. Not because you are hard to know, because you have learned not to show the parts that would let someone know you. You are present, present there, but the version of you that is there is the edited version, already filtered through what is safe to say. And the distance between that version and the one underneath is something only you can feel. What goes inward does not disappear. The things you do not say do not stop existing. The thought you did not finish out loud finishes itself in your head. The feeling you compressed stays in the longer form underneath. The honest answer you swallowed waits. And over time, the inside gets louder and the outside gets quieter. You feel like more than you let anyone see, which means you are almost always carrying more than anyone around you knows. There is one more cost, and it is the quietest one. After long enough, you can lose the habit of asking yourself what you actually think, not because you stopped having opinions, but because the practice of filtering them means they get less opportunity to arrive clearly. You get better at the edit and slower at the original. And sometimes when someone asks directly what you think or need, there is a pause before the answer. Not because you are being evasive, but because you have not asked yourself in a while. Part 5. You were never empty. The silence was not emptiness. The assumption that quiet means there is not much there gets it exactly wrong. The absence of expression is not the absence of something to express. The silence was not the absence of a self. It was the absence of a space where that self felt safe enough to show up. That is not your silence. That is what the room was not. You had things to say, opinions that formed before you learned to slow them down, feelings that arrived before you learned to filter them, things you noticed that you stopped mentioning because mentioning them did not seem to go anywhere. There was a version of you that wanted to be heard, that still wants to be heard. That version did not leave. It learned to wait. It is still in the same place it has always been, just quieter, just more patient, just more accustomed to not being called on. I do not know when your silence started or what made it feel like the safer choice, but I know this. The fact that you went quiet is not evidence that you had nothing to offer. It is evidence that something around you did not make it easy to offer it. That is a different story than the one you may have been telling yourself. The silence was not who you are. It was what you learned to do in the space between who you are and what the room could hold. And those are not the same thing. Closing. I have things I have not said. Some I understand well enough to know why. Some I am still figuring out. There are rooms rooms I have made myself smaller in, conversations I have left before I was finished. I am not finished with this either, but I think it matters to know the difference between someone who has nothing to say and someone who learned that saying it was not safe. Because one of those is a fact about a person, and the other is a fact about a room. If something in this stayed with you, write one word below. Not for me, for the person scrolling after you who has been carrying this quietly and never found a name for it.
I used to say what came to mind before I learned to look around, before I measured every sentence against the room it landed in. There was no moment when it disappeared, just smaller edits, day after day, until the things I wanted to say started staying with me instead. And after a while it felt easier to carry it than explain it. I didn't run out of words, the room ran out of space. I didn't lose my voice, I just stopped leaving it in places that could not hold it. I didn't run out of words, I just learned how much they cost. There are conversations I still remember, not the ones that happened, the ones that didn't, the answers I rehearsed at night and buried before morning came. I told myself it didn't matter, that silence was the better choice. But some things don't disappear just because they stay inside. And every year it got easier to say less and carry more. I didn't run out of words, the room ran out of space. I didn't lose my voice, I just stopped leaving it in places that could not hold it. I didn't run out of words, I just learned how much they cost. Somewhere along the way I became the quiet one, the easy one, the one who didn't need much. And nobody asked what it took to become that version of myself. Maybe I stayed silent for so long that everyone forgot there was more. I didn't run out of words, the room ran out of space. I didn't lose my voice, I just stopped leaving it in places that could not hold it. I didn't run out of words, I just learned how much they cost. for a room that felt safe enough to hear it.